The Writings of the Baal HaSulam, Volume 1, Preface to the Wisdom of Kabbalah, Item 175. Thus it has been made clear that the constant state that there is only Vak without a Rosh in all the worlds, and Partsofim each according to its Behina. Even Naran, the Zadakim, are only considered Vak, although they have Gar the Neshama from the world of Beriah. These Gar are regarded as Vak compared to the world of Atzilut, since they are considered the light of Chasadim separated from Chokhmah. So first, what is Gar? Gar is Gimel Rishonos, Keter Chokhmah Bina, the head intellect Mochin, and Vak, Vag Ketzavot, which is Chesed to Yesod, which represents the emotional, action-oriented light without a Rosh. So when we say Vak without a Rosh, it means light that operates, gives light, but without revealed Chokhmah. Here it says, although they have Gar the Neshama from the world of Beriah, these Gar are regarded as Vak compared to the world of Atzilut. So what does this mean? So Neshama is basically can be a light called Neshama in one world and still be Vak relative to a higher world. And Beriah is the world of Bina. Its light. Its light is primarily Chasadim, understanding, bestowal, and Chokhmah does not shine openly there. So even its highest lights are Bina without the revealed Chokhmah. And so Gar the Neshama from Beriah, Gar, the highest intellectual lights of that level of Neshama, the soul light appropriate to Beriah, and from Beriah, rooted in Bina Chasadim. So these Zadakim receive the highest Mochin available in Beriah, but those Mochin are Chasadim without Chokhmah. They feel like Gar within Beriah. And so this is why it's called Vak. They're regarded as Vak compared to the world of Atzilut, because in Atzilut, Chokhmah and Chasadim are united. And Vak is when Chokhmah is absent. And this is why it says, since they are considered the light of Chasadim separated from Chokhmah. And so what I'm doing here is I'm just breaking down the understanding. I had to work at this and break through the language of what the Baal HaSulam is saying and break it down so I'm able to understand it much better. So if I were to break this down in an easier way to understand, I would say in the normal ongoing state of reality, no world of Partsuf has a true head, only functioning limbs. This is true even for great souls. Even the Naran, the Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama of the righteous are only Vak. Although they receive the highest intellectual soul light available in the world of Beriah, this light is still considered Vak when measured against Atzilut because it's only light of Chasadim without the illumination of Chokhmah. So, an analogy is like this. A brilliant philosopher in a world without sight. He understands everything conceptually, but has never seen light itself. Now compare him to someone in Atzilut who sees relative to the light. Even the greatest blind thinker is still Vak, and that's what the Baal HaSulam means. Going on further, it says, also, although there is Gar in the Roshim of the Partsofim of Atzilut, they are merely regarded as Vak, since they do not shine to the Gufim, and all the Mochin that reach the worlds, which are more than Vak, come only through Man, that the Zedekim the righteous raise. So in Atzilut, the Partsofim do have Rosh, Gar, Keter, Chokhmah, Bina, complete Mochin and potential. So Atzilut itself is not lacking Gar, but they are Vak, since they do not shine in the gufim. So gar remains in the rosh but does not descend into the guf. This is considered as if it does not exist. Therefore, it's unrevealed gar, which equals vak, even in Atzilut. And this isn't a downgrade of Atzilut. It's a rule of definition. If it doesn't clothe the vessels of action, it's not operative. And it says here, all the mochin that reach the worlds, which are more than the vak, come only through the man, through the zedekim, the righteous rays. So, main nukvin, which is arousal from below, which is like prayer, mitzvot, inner demand for correction, human participation. And without main nukvin, the gar stays in the rosh, and worlds remain vak. Chokhmah does not descend with man. The rosh opens, gar is drawn into the guf where the mochin are revealed. And why specifically the Zadekim, the righteous, is Yesod, and Yesod is the pipeline. And only someone aligned with bestowal can safely draw Chokhmah downward. And this is Yesod again, one who channels, one who places the hand on the eyes. This is a metaphor for what Yosef did when he gave the bracha. So basically, even though the Partsufim of Atzilut possesses full intellectual light in their heads, that light is considered inactive, like Vak, because it does not descend into the bodies of the Partsufim. Therefore, all the higher illumination that reaches the lower worlds beyond basic life force occurs only when the righteous arouse it from below through prayer, mitzvah, and inner work. So another analogy would be, think of it this way, a power plant, which is Rosh, with immense electricity, but the switch is off. The city, which is Guf, is dark. Electricity exists, but functionally, the city lives as if it doesn't. The Zadik's man, Mainukvin, flips the switch. Why this matters spiritually? This brings down how it moves slowly. The revelation comes in a burst while human efforts matter. And God does not force revelation. This is what the Baal HaSulam insists. That default state of reality is concealment. Revelation is always a response. Yet these mochin can only be received in the Partsufim through the ascent of the lower one to the place of the upper one. This is so because although they are considered completion of the second kind of 10 sfirot, with respect to the gufim and the zat themselves, they are still regarded as sorting a hop of the first kind, which are not completed in their own place, but only when they are at the place of the upper one. Hence, the 5 Partsufim of Atzilut cannot receive Neshama Chaya and Yechida Da'ak except when they rise and clothe them. So the higher mochin cannot be received in place. They can only be received when the lower one rises to the level of the upper. This is the governing law behind everything that follows. These mochin can only be received through the ascent of the lower place, the lower to the place of the upper, which means mochin, neshama, chaya, yechida. They do not descend downward. The vessels must rise upward to meet them. Why? Because these mochin belong to a higher system of kelim. Light never changes its nature. Only vessels move. And then it talks about 2 kinds of 10 sfirot. So, the first kind of the 10 sfirot, the original structure, this represents the original structure, includes a hop, which is ozen chotem pei, ears, nose, and mouth. But these ahap are fallen, uncorrected. They cannot function in their own place. And the second kind of 10 sfirot are the corrected working structure, operates in katnus and gadlus. It gives the guf its functioning light. It says this is so because although they are considered completion of the second kind of 10 sfirot, with respect to the Gufim and Zat themselves, they are still regarded as sorting the Ahap of the first kind. So basically, the light feels complete to the lower, but the Zat, they receive Mochin, but still the Kalims involved are Ahap, and Ahap do not function in their own place. So the light cannot be stably received below. And Ahap, the vessels of reception, the place where Chokhmah enters after the shattering. Ahap fell. They cannot receive light safely where they are. Therefore, Ahap must rise back to the root to be sorted and filled, and this is the law. Ahap receive only in the place of the upper, never in their fallen place. And the last sentence here, hence the 5 Partsufim of Atzilut cannot receive Neshama Chaya and Yechida Da'ak, except when they rise and clothe them. And Ak is Adam Kadmon, the source of Netzach Chod and Yesod, and Atzilut lower relative to Ak. The Mochin of Ak do not descend. And so Atzilut must rise into Ak, clothe its Partsufim, and only there receive Neshama Chaya and Yechida. And once they descend again, the light recedes. An analogy to this could be like a deep sea diver representing Ahab, who cannot breathe at the surface to receive oxygen. He must go into a pressurized chamber. The oxygen doesn't come down to him, but he goes up to where it can safely be absorbed. That chamber equals the upper Partsuf. And this explains everything that we are learning here. Going on further, it says, likewise, Naran, Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, and the 3 worlds, Beriah, Yetzirah, Nasiyah, cannot receive Naran de Atzilut except when they ascend and clothe Yeshut and Zon de Atzilut, since these Ahap of the second kind which belong to Zat and expand from above downward to the place of Zat will only be sorted at the end of correction. Hence, when the 3 worlds, Beriah, Yetzirah, and Asiyah, rise and clothe Yeshut and Zon de Atzilut, their constant place from the Parsa downward remains utterly vacant of any light of Kedusha. So here we're talking about Atzilut and Ak, and Beriah, Yetzirah, and Asiyah, Atzilut. The same relationships with different scales. So Naran and the worlds of Beriah, Yetzirah, and Asiyah cannot receive Naran da Atzilut in their place. Why? Not because Atzilut lacks light, but because their Kalim cannot receive it below. And Naran da Atzilut is a problem for Beriah, Yetzirah, and Asiyah. Naran da Atzilut is not a small light. Even Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama of Atzilut includes Chokhmah relative to Beriah, Yetzirah, and Asiyah. It requires a hop, touches Zat level reception, so receiving activates it. A hop of the second kind belonging to Zat, extending downward into Beriah, Yetzirah, and Asiyah territory. Again, it mentions a hop of the second kind, which belonged to Zat. So basically, they expand downward into the place of Beriah, Yetzirah, and Asiyah. And these Ahab cannot be sorted in their own place until Gemar Tikkun. So the exact same rule applies. Light that needs Ahab cannot be received below. Forces ascent. Therefore, ascent is mandatory, except when they ascend and clothe Yeshut and Zon de Atzilut. So meaning Beriah, Yetzirah, and Asiyah rises, enters Atzilut, clothes Yeshut, which is upper Bina and Zon, receives Naran there and not below. Again, the light does not descend, vessels ascend. And why Yeshut and Zon? Yeshut is the source of Mochin, and Zon is the conduit to the lower worlds. This is the lowest stable level where these Mochin can be received safely. Beriah, Yetzirah, and Asiyah cannot rise higher than that. And so their constant place from the Parsa downward remains utterly vacant of any light of Kedusha. It means when Beriah, Yetzirah, and Asiyah ascends, The original place below the parsa has no Kedusha light at all. And so this is my own study on item 175 in Preface to the Wisdom of Kabbalah. This isn't so much a teaching, but more of my own studying of how to break this down and understand it. I'm still learning. This is very not easy to learn. The language is a high language, and so I'm doing this video more for even me to review and study over and over again, reading the item over and over. You can't just read this once and think you got it. And if you can, you're a genius. And so, hope you enjoyed the video. Whoever's studying Baal HaSulam, not for everyone, but it's challenging and I love it. And on that note, Shavua Tov.